In this watercolor seascape, I use a few confident brushstrokes to create broken color and sparkling waves. The white sparkle is not white paint. The paper is left untouched to create the light and movement of the water. And by holding the brush flatter, it skips across the paper texture and the damp paper softens the edges naturally. From the waves to the sand, the beach grasses, and seagulls, the painting comes together one step at a time. And as you can see, I swipe that brushstroke right across that page to start the water and the ocean. And that is in real time. I use my whole arm to do that brushstroke. And then you can also see a little bit below the waves breaking. That is damp paper that I had already wet. And you can see how the color softens there. So it's a little bit of both dry paper and damp paper. And then I move ahead to the foreground, bringing in colors such as French ochre, raw sienna, yellow ochre, and kind of bring that forward into the center area. And I've added little footprints, kind of leading the eye in. And on the left there, I am using a little Holbein watercolor, Juan Brilliant. It's kind of a brighter cream color. And then I start adding some of the more muted greens. I tend to mix my greens. I do use, you can see my palette, phthalo green I do use, and I tone that down with reds and pinks. And then I continue darkening, adding more and more stronger color. And, for the water, I do use phthalo blue. I use another Holbein marine blue. And I will add some cobalt or ultramarine to those. And I kind of mix colors together to get my ocean color. And I will tone that down a little bit, maybe with a little bit of orange or maybe a little gray. Here's my fan brush. I'm using, just a little variety of shapes that I can get with different brushes. Like I said earlier, I did already have the sky finished when I started filming, and I do have plans to make sky videos, kind of demonstrating a variety of different skies in watercolor. So you can look for that next. So on my palette there, you can kind of see the reds and the greens. And that's the phthalo green. I believe it's the blue shade of phthalo green. And for the phthalo blue, I usually use the green shade of that. But just by mixing a few different colors of green, it adds variety to the painting. Instead of having it all one color. This is a larger round brush that I'm using now. I had a little bit of warmer green in the foreground. And I'm spattering paint here. It just adds a nice texture. Here I'm doing my scraping technique. I actually have a mini pocket knife that I sometimes use and just scrape away some of the color for blades of grass. Again, it's a nice texture. And now I am going to just darken a little bit of the curl of the waves, add a little bit of shadow in there. And I'm being fairly careful because I want to keep those nice broken edges that I created with my first 2 to 3 strokes of paint. So again, it's just a little bit darker, more intense colors of the ocean colors that I had used. Notice how I often have paper towels handy, so you can kind of control the water that's in the brush. You don't want it too soaking wet or too dry. Just adding a few waves in the distance. This painting is a half a sheet. I usually buy full sheets of watercolor paper, generally Arches and Saunders Waterford paper, mostly cold press. So this is a half sheet of that, and it kind of works out to be about 15 by 21. I do like to soak my paper for 8 minutes in a tub of water, and it really stretches the paper out. And then I staple it to a piece of board, and then I let it dry thoroughly before I start painting, generally, if I'm doing it if I'm stapling it. And it's a very tight surface. And then if I'm doing a wet into wet painting, I don't staple. I work right on gator board or a piece of glass. I'm removing highlights for the distant waves here. I have pre-wet areas on this right side, and now I'm going to paint the grass into those areas. I'm using a little bit warmer color. Adding a little bit darker color to the grasses for a little bit of variety. Vary the shapes and the values. Makes it a little more interesting. Try and vary the shape and sizes of each, grass, individual grass in the details. Here I'm using my rigger brush, and that is nice for taller stalks of grass. Adding the taller stalks of grass and reeds. And here's my little seagulls. I did add a little bit of white into those seagulls. And then I did glaze a little bit of light blue over this foreground area. And you can also see a few reflections that I have put in just by scrubbing and dabbing with a paper towel to pull out those reflections that are coming towards the viewer. I hope this tutorial gave you techniques you can try in your own watercolor paintings. Click on the next video on the screen for another quick tip. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching and happy painting!